Hey guys, I'm just gonna finish up Ozark Howler. I didn't have much to do. I was just adding hardware. I've already started adding the hardware. These are just number 5 screws because that's the closest thing to eighth of an inch. I may end up consequently shrinking these holes to make it so it actually digs into it because I realized if I was originally thinking number 6 and having it, but I realized with the brackets I'm using that I'll basically be screwing into the bracket, so I got to change that. I also got to add where the holes are going to be for the top plate and everything. And some other people looked at the CAD, and I realized, and they talked me into moving the drive motors up more because while I really like the idea of having it touch in the back, I think that I was convinced that moving them forward will have a better weight distribution and make it drive better. So I gotta edit. Oh, I forgot I want to get some music going. Let's get some. I'm gonna have to turn this down. Okay. I do not like the music. I do not like that. And what am I really should plan ahead. That's what someone who's actually good at streaming would do. Good enough. Let me know if it's too. Oh, I'm not showing my screen. That's 1 second. Give me a second. You'd swear this is my first time, or you would swear. Okay. Back to the task at hand. Okay, I was going to move the motors up more. What was that? Oh, that hole is part of the boss. I haven't touched this in a minute, so I'm trying to remember. Fine. We're actually going to do this from the origin. See if we cut off a whole half in it. Because we're basically trying to get it as close to this motor as possible. Obviously I could just, I know some people like to have the belt going over the drive motor to really have it balanced out, but that sounds like a lot of work and sounds like it would be a little bit more complicated than what I'm trying to do with this robot. I'm trying to get this almost goofily easy. Actually, 3 This is going to be it. Okay. It's actually probably going to end up making this robot shorter. I mostly did that with that way it's an even amount. I guess it's from the origin though. How far is it from? Okay, so now, yeah, we push the motors probably about 1/4 of an inch. And we could probably change the length of the robot a little bit. Not by much, not as much as I thought. Good. 4.2 is that? It's gonna end up being. Oh, that's not what. Change. Let's do 2. Let's try 2.9. We're gonna have to. Okay, that might be a little close. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna basically go as close to 3 inches without being. Then I do want to actually see where that puts our battery. I think I basically want that battery tucked behind there, so I think I do want to make it just a little bit shorter. Nope, that's not what I want to change. I always do that. Change the wrong. Hey there, King Pie Games. Welcome back. What did I do? Oh, I put 2 dots. That's what I did. Now let's just do 4.125. I'm just doing some final touches on Ozark Howler, and I was convinced. I showed my CAD to some other people, and they convinced me to not bother with trying to have the drive motors touch in the back. But right now I'm trying to make it so basically push everything as tightly as possible now. Ironically, I think this actually makes it the whole package tighter now that I'm not as worried about that. There's no way you can go to a whole 4 inches. It's gonna be too tight, right? Ooh, that's gonna be a tight fit. The battery is gonna be snug as a bug in there. Debating if that's too snug. I want to give it a little more breathing room. Because I'm also going up nominal dimensions, but making the whole robot a lot smaller. I do need to add holes to actually attach the back part. That is another thing I needed. And I realized I didn't think enough about how this is going to connect. I think I'm just going to use longer screws. I'm just not going to overthink it. Just use a little bit longer of screws. Maybe a spacer if I'm feeling spacey. What is this music? Toy shopping. It's funny, I've been trying a bunch of different things for music, and then the answer is looking me in the face. It was the YouTube studio music. So worried it's gonna be too tight, but what is the space between? Is that a 70 normal distance? It's like a 74th of an inch. Yeah, I'm gonna want more than a 74th of an inch, I think. I think like, oh, if it's look like this is in the picture, it'll be fine. But I just know nominal distances it's gonna like, or I could, yeah, because otherwise we're gonna end up pushing into the motors. I like how I'm putting my hands up like you can see my hands, but yeah, we're gonna just barely make it. Nope, I don't want to make it thicker. We're just gonna do literally just add a 1/16 of an inch to give it some breath. I forgot. Basically use this. Make it equal. Trying to add animation. Drag this. There we go. Wait. I don't want to. I just keep wanting to add a relation when I want to mirror. There we go. Okay, so we got that mirrored. So we're gonna have holes there. Honestly, I probably want to make them smaller, even though in reality, like, I'm probably just gonna, like, these dimensions, like, I'm not gonna draw this up or send it to anybody, so, like, make them slightly smaller, because I'm gonna be essentially using wood screws. We're gonna edit this part, and we're gonna add some holes. For now, we're gonna. I need to hide these screws because they're kind of in the way. Really, just gonna use these ones. Oh, I'm no longer in the sketch. That's why it's not working properly. Quarter of an inch in. I'll have to figure out what I want to do as a spacer. If I even want to have a spacer, I might just say screw it and just have bare screws going through my robot. Or yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll find a solution at the hardware store. Okay. Oh, we need tops. Okay. I need to make sure that I'm actually editing a part when I do this. Go. Surprisingly intense music for the situation we're in. I feel like ideally I want to do um, 2 screws for each part going into the top. Ends up being a lot of screws, but actually maybe not the front part, because I think the front part's much less structural, or much less key to the structure. Does that make sense? Like, not going to be under the same loads as the rest of the as the sides and back. I also want to make sure this just isn't in line with anything weird. 0.5, perfect. That's perfectly not going through the motor or where another screw should be. 1. Not ideal. 0.5 maybe? That feels good. Feels like it's not going to be too close to something else. And then we're going to cut 5 inches. And then we're just going to mirror entity, or mirror top plane. This is why I like to make sure that my origin's in a good spot, because it makes my life so much easier. There's been so many times I've had to the material is just a fingertech beater bar. So the weapon is the yellow part's aluminum with these screws in them. It's sort of purposely meant to be like super easy to assemble. That's why I'm using the fingertech beater bar, because it's a purchased part essentially. It's a pre-made part. Because all of this yellow you see, this weird mustard yellow that I probably should pick a different color for, this is all going to be UHMW that I'm going to cut out by hand. So that's why it's all squares, because I have to cut it out by hand using a handsaw. So, yeah, my goal with this one is not use a 3D printer and not order any CNC parts from like Send Cut Send or wherever. Make it all by hand, just a drill and a saw pretty much, and purchase parts. I thought I was being novel when I came up with the idea of doing that, but I realized it really wasn't. What is... What are these points? Did I break something? Yep. I kind of just have and for my wheels, I'm gonna have foam wheels just for the sake of saying that, you know, I made everything out of purchased parts or whatever. But I don't like foam wheels. I actually never driven with foam wheels, but everything I've seen, I don't like them much. So I don't want to buy a bunch of foam wheels. So I'm probably gonna have a version with cast wheels, like cast urethane wheels with a 3D printed hub. But what competition event? I actually do. Well, I did last year. I did compete or this year, I guess. I competed in a lot of Bet Spots events in Wisconsin, but typically a lot of the MRCA events, I kind of travel the Midwest. So any of the MRCA events I go to. So pretty much all of the bots I build will be fitting that rule set. But yeah, I typically, as far as weight classes go, I have one beetle, but most of my robots that I'm building are going to be ants. This specifically is a ant. A good weapon for your first bot. I would say a lifter, because if it's your first bot, you don't have a test box, and so you don't need a test box for a lifter. Either that or like maybe even a grabber, because that's kind of has the same principles. You know, like you don't need a test box to test it. So either a grabber or lifter. It also depends on what you have access to. If you have an very powerful. I mean, I don't. It's hard to say. I do have a very powerful computer, but it's not to run SolidWorks. But I don't. I'm not. Now that I think about it, I've typically only ran it on actual nice computers, but I'm not sure how powerful of a computer you need, because I haven't tried. I guess I've done it on my laptop, but my laptop's also sort of built for gaming, but it depends on kind of also how big your assembly is. Because um because I've definitely seen some performance issues with my more complex robots. But SolidWorks, I use SolidWorks because I'm an engineer and I've used SolidWorks before, and I didn't feel like I'd rather pay the $100 a year or whatever than try to learn a new software because it's free. I personally, I would, if you're an engineer or wanting to be an engineer, I would use SolidWorks. But if you're just learning CAD in order to like make robots, then I would use one of the free softwares like Onshape or Fusion 360. I haven't had too many prob graphic demand of the threads give you trouble. Um, yeah, any graphics card new, yeah. Yeah, I also have a pretty beefy computer. I've updated the graphics card. What was it, 2 years ago? Oh my god, I think that was 2 years ago. But yeah, you also don't. I would say you don't necessarily even run. Oh yeah, simulations. It gets pretty slow. Um, I don't run that many simulations to be honest, but I probably should. But it's just so hard to anticipate what's going to happen. But yeah, I don't have much experience trying to run that many simulations, at least with SolidWorks. But, so I think, but that's also one of those things. If you're running a simulation, you're not typically like actively trying to use it. It's more like you run the simulation and then get the results, as opposed to like trying to use it and me moving this around. Like the guy like it isn't lagging here, but this assembly isn't nearly as crazy as say Hodag. Hodag has an absolutely crazy amount of sketches. So although there was that one time I was playing, I was playing like Call of Duty. This was like a year or two ago, and I realized that the entire time I was playing, I had SolidWorks open. It's coming along pretty well. If you tuned in last time, I've just been adding holes mostly, but other than that, I made changes where I moved the motors forward. I had some other people take a look at the CAD, and they convinced me to move the motors up so it'll drive better the closer it is to the weapon. Although consequently, I ended up being able to make the bot shorter, so it didn't really like change it. I've heard of people, like I've said this earlier, where people actually have the weapon motor behind the drive motors, and then they pretty much run the pulley around the drive motors. Oh yeah. What's funny is it actually isn't even probably that much room because you can see the wheels like almost there. But yeah, this is way going to be way easier to place. Um, I just have a weak spot if someone penetrates my backside. Just got some. So everyone knows where to hit me if they hit me on the back. Just and they cut in deep enough, they can take out my battery. Secret weak point. Hold here. Oh, are you talking about the motor thing? Yeah, I'm not surprised because that seems like it's a very tight looking bot. I couldn't imagine it being the dimensions. I couldn't imagine Mothership being the dimensions it is without doing the trick that I mentioned. Yeah, I was definitely gonna do something in the back. Whole wizard function. I haven't really I probably should use it. I just don't. I never use the. I don't really use the whole wizard unless I'm trying to put threads into something, or sometimes I do it with tapered holes. But for like these types of holes that aren't tapered, I don't. Honestly, even with tapered holes, I don't do it. Um, I with threaded holes, I would use it, but I don't. I don't know. It's hard to say if I necessarily even have the best habits around SolidWorks. I have some good habits and some bad habits, but it definitely I find it just really annoying to try to make the sketch for whole wizards because I hate using 3D sketches. And I think that's the real reason I don't use a whole wizard because I hate trying to build a 3D sketch. I get like this is just quicker. I also have this weird thing that I like. Obviously, I know how to like use my keyboard, but I use SolidWorks in a way that I only use the mouse, which makes me feel like a boomer. Like when a like try like a boomer trying to use Excel and not using the keyboard. Because I even have shortcuts to my left to my when I right click. I have these shortcuts, so I don't ever have to actually use the keyboard. Oh, I realized that I'm not playing music right. I'm trying to keep it quiet that way. I don't necessarily have to fill every silence. Okay, we have the holes in the bot itself. Then we need the I have this spec as if the top plate's going to be carbon fiber, which I might do in the future, but I think at least at the first event, this is probably just going to be polycarbonate. For entities, we'll just convert all the holes we just made. And what I'm going to end up doing when I actually make this is I'm probably just going to create a drawing of the parts and print out the drawing and just place it on my stock material so that way I can just place it and then like drill, mark where the holes are and using the 1-to-1 sketch and then just drill holes after it's cut. When I make the video, I'll show you guys specifically, show y'all what I specifically mean. See the dimensions on this end up being. Leave it driven, and this should also be in inches because everything else is in inches. That's about 3 inches. About 4. Okay. I'm just debating because what I'm probably going to do for the polycarbonate, I'm not going to get a big sheet. I'm probably going to go on McMaster Carr and order like a long piece of it. So I'm debating what size to get. It's either going to end up being 3 inch or 4 inch. Probably 3. Hopefully drilling the holes doesn't make the polycarbonate too weak. If it does, I'm gonna be sad. Because that's... I know drilling into polycarbonate is a thing they tell you not to do. But I'm hoping since it's just the top and bottom plate, good enough. I do not like this. There we go. Okay, I need to add some more screws. I want to add some screws. Because I mostly want to just add screws for the sake of getting a weight analysis. Because 347, 453 is what we have to work with. Barring any minor stuff that I'm not including, because I didn't include like the ESC and stuff for the weight, because wait, always do that. I'm probably gonna do the toxic thing and not mate all these. So this is gonna be actually a lot of screws, and then we're gonna need 8 for the top. Let me just you're gonna find out firsthand if all these threads end up lagging the program, since I'm gonna put all of them in the assembly. I didn't fill in the weight of the screws, I just set it to being tool steel, and I just hope that that's close enough of an estimate. Oh, we're gonna end up needing 2 long screws. But with that, where are we looking at weight? Let's save this because I don't know if I saved in a while. There's actually, I know Bigfoot looks kind of like this, where I just have screws in space because I didn't actually put them in place because that sounds like a lot of work. So I just have them in space so I could do a mass eval. Did that not add any weight? That didn't add much weight because how much is a screw? Master model technique. I definitely don't do a master model technique. That doesn't ring any bells to me. I for this assembly, I just put in my purchased parts into an assembly, and then all of these all these custom parts that I'm going to make myself are created in the assembly. So I'm guessing you weren't here last week, but yeah, I just put in drive motors, all these motors, just threw it in the assembly, started moving it around where it needed to be, and then I actually put my one of the first things I did, I put the origin pretty much in the middle of the beater bar. That way I had an axis where the beater bar was. Where do you get your electronics? I typically get it from places like Repeat Robotics. Like this motor's coming from Repeat Robotics. And I'll probably get the ESC from Repeat Robotics. They have a good drive ESC that's pretty easy to use. I pretty much actually get all my drive motors and drive ESCs from Repeat Robotics. This beater bar kit, I think I got it from itgressa.com. And the battery, I'm probably either going to get from itgressa or... well, the battery you can get a lot of different places, but either itgressa, RSL also sells batteries. Let me post a link. This is itgressa.com. Yeah, itgressa.com. Will it let me post links? I know it won't let you. That's where I get a lot of electronics. Also, they don't pay me to say this. I'm not no one. I have no affiliates. Those are the two. Those are probably the two most common places I get parts from. itgressa is more of an aggregation of parts, and they have pretty good descriptions of all of the parts on there. Actually, itgressa kind of helped me learn a lot about what I needed for electronics. But Repeat Robotics is probably is a more of a supplier of parts than just a store where he collects it. But he makes pretty good drive motors. Pretty much, if you use his drive motors for your robot, you're probably doing something right in my opinion. But Peter didn't pay me to say that. He could pay me if he wanted to, but gotta get the affiliate link first. Yeah, and this part is did I not? I don't remember what I did with this. Everything's an older version because I updated this yesterday. But I'm trying to remember what I did for mass properties. Oh. Yeah, I already overrode the mass on that. I'm just double checking how I did that. Because for some of the parts, I just override the mass with whatever the manufacturer says it is, or I'd weigh it. I don't usually weigh it myself, but sometimes I weigh the part myself and override it. And I don't use any 3D printed parts in this assembly, but for 3D printed parts, I actually use the slicer and use the weight estimate. It's not perfect, but better than nothing. What? Oh, I didn't think about that. If you notice here that the hole doesn't match up because it's mirrored. In real life, I won't have to mirror it. It'll be a flat thing, but I'm not going to worry too much about that because it's a flat piece that can be flipped either way, but I need to figure out what length of screws I need because I'm going to need a screw that goes from here to here. I'll probably just use a 1-inch screw then with that distance. A 1-inch screw going in there. So I'll need to I need to write this down. I need to write down what hardware I need to buy because I haven't actually bought screws for this yet. I think that's actually, I need to buy the battery and I need to buy, because this is going to be a 380 milliamp hour, milliamp hour. 3S, it's going to be a 3S battery. And I need number 5, 1/2, and by 1 inch. Writing down a shopping list for myself. All my screws. Actually, I'm probably going to, back armor we mentioned. There was a few things I had in mind for making sure it didn't get stuck. Because obviously if it ends up like this, that is bad. One solution I had in mind to make it not sit like that was to simply put a screw in the back. That would be the lowest weight solution. Just be put a screw back there. That would probably maybe longer than that. And then that way it kind of tilts in a certain direction. But that way it's not, it can't, there's no like flat place. It's just like one point. Another thing I could do is I could probably put a strip of UHMW along the back. But I was also considering, there's not as much room as I thought. Because I thought maybe I could try to put a piece of UHMW in front of the tires, kind of sticking out this way. I probably could, like, and just have holes here. Essentially do insert components. Insert it that way. I want a new part. Rename it. Oh. Sure, my. There we go. Sorry about that. There. Anyway, I need to make sure I'm editing the part before I do a sketch. Yeah, this is brick. That. What is this? So close to having exact. And then essentially doing that, and then well, see you later, King Pie's Games. Close. Thanks for stopping by. And we're gonna bend that out half an inch. Thanks for coming in. Or even 0.75 inches. Like if we do something like that and then just drill holes. HMW. Oh my. Kept thinking that it's like, okay, we're not playing. But something like that, that way front hits don't hit as hard. Although I feel like with the geometry, that way there's fewer hits that end up causing it to completely get rid of my tire. But then we end up, I have to worry about putting in a situation where my robot ends up sitting like that. Because this shaft will probably end up getting cut. Because I think I have a motor by me, but they're longer than half an inch. Honestly, they're not as long as they are pictured here. For whatever reason, the CAD for it's way longer than they are in real life. But although I might not cut them if it means like just making it easier to get back on my feet, but or back on my wheels. Because yeah, just worried it'll end up like that or in a weird position. Although I feel like weight wise it couldn't end up in that position because there's too much weight in the back. But although this weapon's pretty heavy, so that probably doesn't work in my favor. Yeah, because evaluate. Yeah, if my weight assessment's accurate, which it's probably the actual weight's going to be a little bit more than this, I imagine. No, actually, if I'm using polycarbonate top and bottom plates, it's actually going to be less. Because if I'm using carbon fiber, I'm probably using a less thick, less material than what I have now. Honestly, I have a lot of weight to work with. So we probably have room for this. Blue M. That's a good question. I never in the makers. Oh, I think it's because I'm using the makers version of it. Because I'm not using the like the one I would use that at work or for school. I think I have different features. I'm not sure what exactly that ends up meaning, but yeah, I noticed I don't have that M whenever I use SolidWorks at work, but gonna have to look it up. That's I just looked it up and on Reddit. It's talking. Yeah, I was correct. I looked it up and it sent me to a Reddit article that says that it's just the M in the blue circle. It just means it's the maker's version of SolidWorks. I personally did not know that. I know I like knew it, but I didn't think of it as being a weird thing because I've used it for, oh my god, I've been a year now. I've had this. Just got it's like just a mark to tell people I'm different. Not using the real version of SolidWorks. Whoops. I accidentally converted the whole like face. It's not what I wanted to do. Definitely not through all, just 5. I learned it in college. I went to school for mechanical engineering. I have a bachelor's. My day job is a test engineer. I actually just got told I'm getting a promotion today. I'm pretty much having the exact same responsibilities. I'm just getting paid more and I have a slightly better title. Whoops. That's not what I want to do. I wanted to edit feature to include this. Probably should have done the mirror feature for all those screws I have. That would have been what a smart person would have done. It's also if just do some boring stuff real quick. Let me do that. Yeah, we'll see if I actually end up getting the countersunk screws once I end up going to the hardware store. I'm not convinced I still want to do that, but just to give a approximate weight estimate. Especially in, I guess, the bigger the robot, the bigger the hardware. So I guess hardware does count, especially if it has lots of screws, but. Because I'm currently throwing these screws into place, that way I can actually release these screws I'm going to mirror. That way I can add 4 screws, because otherwise I was just going to add 4 screws and then it's going to just add to the math. Where's my screw? Oh. Yeah. Maybe I should throw it over here before I do that, because otherwise it's going inside of my part. Right. Nope. Centric, and we want to go there. This to this. Yeah, honestly, I didn't learn that much SolidWorks in school. I learned a lot when I my job before this one, I worked as a contractor, and I ended up they end up having me work at a trailer company, and my entire job was measuring parts on trailers and then CADing them up. And because they had SolidWorks and weren't using SolidWorks, they did have part files, but so many of them were like inaccurate or incomplete. Like none of their assemblies were actually functional assemblies or accurate assemblies. So my entire job was basically doing CAD for entire trailers. And I did like dozens of trailers in like a couple months. So it was a lot of CAD in a short period of time. I think around the same time I decided I was also looking at like YouTube videos. I can't remember the name of the one guy who teaches about SolidWorks specifically. I'd have to look it up. But he and then I really wanted to take that course on LinkedIn because that one was because I think I tried when I first got out of school and was looking for a job and struggled to get a job, tried to get that little skill badge, but I did end up getting it after working for a while and doing SolidWorks every day for months. I was also traveling 100% of the time while working there. So that was interesting. It was like 9 months of just being on the road, pretty much living out of my car and living in hotels. And that was down in Texas. So I was pretty far from home. Okay. Where's our updated weight assessment? Oh, this thing's going to be underweight, I guarantee it. But yeah, I think we're going to leave this as is for now. Oh, nope. I am missing one thing. Can you guys tell me what I'm missing? Screws to hold this on. Because this is just floating. And I'm going to need holes in the top plate for that. We're actually going to hide the bottom one. God, that's horrifying. I don't know what these holes actually are, but I'm drilling it by hand, so I'm not super worried. It's probably just going to end up being whatever drill bit I'm using. Guess what that means? Running two more screws. Actually, I'm realizing I don't know. Also, I'm going to double check my screw count at some point. Actually, wait a minute. I'm going to need different size screws for the top, too. No. Do not want to screw. That's another thing I'm going to have to deal with because the height of the robot is not the same height as... I don't think the screws that I'm going to add are going to be 50 grams. Actually, no. Probably closer to 100 grams is what would put me overweight. So I'm not super worried about it. Because I also don't have the drive or... I mean, I don't have the drive or weapon ESC. But I think I have the holes where I need them to be. Because if I... Actually, just for... Because how far off is half an inch? If we end up doing... You use mate ref. What do you mean by that? Mate references. Oh, that's not even close. I don't remember. Oh, automatic mating. I don't think I ever use automatic mating. Oh yeah, I always do everything by hand. I don't trust anything automated. I probably should use mate references, judging by how laborious these screws are. Is that mating these screws is the exact way. But yeah, I actually never use mate references. I probably should. That would be like the right thing to do. Usually, like I use, a lot of times I didn't do it here because I was being complacent, but I try to use usually like I do like what I mirror stuff. I should have had all these screws mated, but why did I do a separate thing for the screws? The right thing to do is to... But yeah, I probably shouldn't use mate references, but... Yeah. So geometry in the screw, no sign of mate, then drag the screw. Yeah. I actually never use that. I kind of forget that's a thing. Probably should though, especially because I like to do... I'm too much like doing things that are very direct. Because a lot of times I get annoyed sometimes when SolidWorks does things automatically. Especially when things get really complicated, and this would probably be a great situation for mate references, but... I think this weekend I'm probably going to work on making this because this assembly, I use it with screws. Yeah, I don't fully understand the function. Yeah, I can imagine it really does speed things up. Because I think normally, like if I was doing this, I would do these screws on that because they're symmetrical here, and I would use a lot of mirror components. That's what I should have done, but I kind of wasn't thinking when I did this. With these screws, like these screws, I should have just had be symmetrical here. But yeah, I like to do symmetrical stuff, and I like to the best. And if you are doing symmetrical mirror components, start on one side because sometimes I get complacent and don't have it on the same side, and then I remember which side I have all the references on. So I like to make sure all the like I also for the sides, the side that is the reference is the left side. I think on other robots I have it be the right side, but for some reason I decided the left side for this robot. I can't give you a good reason on why I decided to change that for this. Probably shouldn't have. Probably should have kept it to the right side, but here we are. I don't have much else to do with Ozark. I don't think of what I need to do with Ozark Howler before this weekend, other than obviously buy the hardware. Save. Are you a student or like a new engineer or something? Ah, see. Yeah. I like the looks of this. This looks a lot better. Yeah, obviously if I was 3D printing this, like I wouldn't have just a flat face for them to hit. I would have some like fancy curved part and probably be it'd probably smoothly go into this, but because I don't plan on 3D printing this and I'm doing it by hand. I'm not even like having someone else cut the parts. Just going into my garage and getting the saw out, which is gonna suck because I don't know where you guys are at, but it was cold as hell here today. And if I have to, I think Saturday I'm probably going to be in the garage cutting. It's going to suck. I'm going to be so cold. Fading. How thick did I get? Oh, crap. That's another. I just realized I never ordered the polycarbonate yet. I need to order that. I can't make this robot without the top and bottom. I was a certified idiot. I'm actually going to do that probably tonight. Not on stream because I don't want to accidentally dox myself, but I'll order the polycarbonate tonight before I go to bed. But after we finish this stream, I'm actually gonna, obviously like I'm not doing more CAD with this, so next week I will have a stream. It's not on the schedule yet. Next week though, I am going to start a new robot because this robot is sort of a side project. This isn't a main. No, just a guide to sell. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I couldn't imagine myself getting in how I'd get into SolidWorks like without, I don't know. I guess like was never really anything stopping me to get into SolidWorks as a hobby, but do you make robots? Like, do you that's also a relevant question because I'm not sure who YouTube like shares my videos to, so I'm not a professional maker. Interesting. Like, do you make like what do you make professionally? I guess. That's a pretty broad description, maker. Yeah. I keep thinking that I should do a like long form video that's about SolidWorks, but I feel like there's better SolidWorks videos on YouTube than I can make. Wendigo. This is the new robot. I haven't made it yet, but next week we're going to be working on this. Oh, I forgot I moved everything. I ended up doing some cleanup of my files. So I actually made folders for all my purchase components. Indian music going. Indian inspired, at least. I don't know who Patrick Patricos is, but yeah, this tells you nothing about the robot because this is just the fact. This just tells you I'm going to use a tangential drive motor and a brushless motor because Ozark Howler isn't really my style. Like, I'm not really a beater bar type of guy because it's kind of not as, it doesn't have as much finesse as some other robots. So, but it's going to be a horizontal spinner. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna need it with some of these builds. But yeah, next week build is gonna be, I think, I'm gonna start working on it's gonna be a horizontal spinner, but it's gonna be a smaller CNC machine. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, machinists. I know I feel like machinists actually goes well into a lot of bot stuff. Because there's definitely like machinist stuff that as an engineer I feel like I should know, but I like don't. And I definitely see some engineers that don't know anything about machining, and then they're like end up doing dumb stuff because they don't understand machining. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I feel like it's valuable for engineers to know about machining, and I guess there is value in machinists knowing about SolidWorks and or learning about that sort of thing, designing parts, I guess. Because we had at my work we actually had an engineering designer who was, I don't think he was a full-on engineer, but he was an engineering designer that used to be a machinist. But it makes a lot of sense because it's a lot of horizontal. Rougarou into a shuffler. Interesting. That's got to be exciting. Also, it's a very interesting time to start making a shuffler, because shufflers seem to be on there a lot. Shufflers seem to be on the way out with less people, less event organizers are giving shufflers a bonus. So it's an interesting time to make one. Because I think I was probably going to try to make a shuffler soon with shufflers being kind of, nerfed each season, because they're getting easier and easier to make, I think. Or like people have, not that they're necessarily easier to make, people have figured them out, so to speak, more. So I think if they didn't reduce the weight limit, it would get there. Weight boost. Yeah. Yeah, I know Spark reduced it. I think MRCA also reduced it because they wanted to stay aligned with what Spark's doing. And I think NHRL did something too. I don't remember what NHRL's rule set change was, but yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting time to convert something into one. Yeah, well, the thing is, it's not so much just the machining as a knowledge set. It's like also like tools. Like, I don't have tools to machine in my condo. I think it works well for horizontal. Yeah. Interesting. Providing them more traction. More traction. I never really do shufflers get more traction? than like say like urethane wheels. I never really heard. I guess I haven't really looked into that too much because I'm used to like looking at some robots, shufflers that kind of get pushed around, but providing more traction, especially if you don't have nearly as much extra weight. Because I know having extra weight in a horizontal keeps you from necessarily flying all over the place. Because, yeah, my new robot that I want to make is actually going to be a horizontal. I'm not going to start working on it tonight. I wasn't thinking about it too much, but... oh, what I should probably do is I was going to make wheels, but... I do that another time. I have to actually, at some point, design wheels. These are just placeholders, but yeah, I was gonna make it actually an undercutter, but the undercutter was gonna be, it's gonna be one of those horizontals that has forks in the back to get it underneath people, but it's gonna be a four-wheel drive undercutter. It's probably not gonna have a huge weapon, but the idea is that I wanted to make a robot that has forks in the back, and like that way if I'm driving forward or backward into somebody, like I can either do damage or control them. And I felt like a lot of horizontals, like, well, I've seen more horizontals with the forks in the back. That way they actually can have get some control points and have a win condition even if they lose their weapon. So originally it was going to be a horizontal, but then I realized that wouldn't work because I couldn't have hinged forks on both ends. Yeah. But yeah, I know of some robot builders here on YouTube, like Maker's Muse and Robert Cohen. I know they have parts that they actually machine for their robots, but I don't. Even if I had the knowledge, I don't have the equipment. Lona Scalar. Oh, Scalar X. Yeah, I feel like you could have a larger surface area, I guess, and a different geometry could be with. Yeah, I remember Scalar X. Cause didn't Peter make Scalar X? And like, yeah, I didn't know who he handed off to, but yeah. But yeah, shufflers definitely. Yeah, I think the extra weight might be a big reason it doesn't fly around. Is definitely at least a factor in why it doesn't fly around as much compared to the wheel version. Like, also, I know the wheeled if it's the default wheeled version of the Scalar, that's using foam wheels. So I feel like comparing the shuffler pods to like foam wheels is going to be a lot easier to have a favorable comparison. I haven't watched it. Yeah. Yeah, I honestly ended up deciding to have this be the stream because I couldn't think of a easy way for me to have a stream and have it be about combat robotics without like me having to like physically build something and then a harder camera setup. So me doing SolidWorks for a stream just ended up making the most sense. Yeah, Peter owns it. Yes. Okay. Yeah, because I know he was in Korea. Yeah, it was Korea, right? Where do you have robot battles? I would say, well, I go to places all over the Midwest. If you're trying to find robot fights, assuming you're in the US, like if you go to robot combat events, you can find places. But yeah, I typically have to travel pretty far. Robotcombatevents.com or BuildersDB. Antweight.com. I probably typed it in wrong. Yeah. These are probably going to be the best place. Because I know certain regions. Because certain regions, I think, use Builders DV. I know RC has more stuff. Because I'm going to be driving all the way to Missouri. There used to be a place over in Beloit that had events, but he said that he's no longer doing events. There's this one. I know Robot Smashing League has robots coming up, or events coming up. They haven't officially announced them on the Discord, but I noticed if you click events on the Robot Smashing League website, they have one in February, according to this. This is in Hastings, which is by Minneapolis. They have multiple events throughout the year. There's going to be one in Ohio. Michigan, I know, has lots of events. Typically, I think most of them are typically clustered around Chicago. Last year, there was 2 events that were kind of in the... I said Chicago. I meant Detroit. The ones in Michigan are clustered around Detroit. And there's 2... Last year, there's also 2 events in Chicago, in the Chicago area that I went to. I would say I have to travel. The closest event is like still over an hour to drive, and some of the spend on a robot. For this robot that I'm working on right now, I would say the cost estimate that I have is about $250 for one copy of the robot. That's not including like transmitter. The transmitter, I already have one, so I'm not factoring that into the cost. But without the transmitter, without a battery charger, and without all extras and spares, this is about $250 worth of robot. It also depends on like tools and stuff, I think, depending on what tools you have. I guess you're a machinist, so you probably have at least some basic tools. But yeah, I would say an Antweight 1 pound robot, I would estimate like a starter robot to be 250 pound, or not 250 pounds, $250. Obviously, if you're like super frugal with it, you can probably get it less than that. But I would say for a 3 pound robot, which, I mean, what if you would start fighting robots, it's going to depend on what's near you. Because here in the US, 1 and 3 pounds are probably going to be what you do. Because I know 1 pound is obviously cheaper than 3 pounds, but you might end up fighting 3 pounds. Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say a 1 pound robot, about 250, give or take $100. And 3 pound robot, I would almost say just triple that, and then plus or minus 250 pound or $250 ish, maybe 600 plus or minus 150 or something like that. Because I know some people can easily spend over $1,000 on a 3 pound robot, but yeah, I would estimate 250 pounds per pound of robot as you go up. Although I wouldn't say a 150 pound is a third the cost, because it's like, for a ferry, I'm not actually saving that much more money. Except for on like metal parts, I guess. Ferry, the electronics and stuff inside the robot's pretty much going to be comparable to a 1 pound robot, but when you get to like metal parts, it's a lot cheaper. 300, 400 on Beetle. That's pretty, I would say that's a rather frugal robot. 350 to 400 pounds on a Beetle. Because if we look at Hodag, although to be fair, Hodag is, well, the last version of Hodag, the version of Hodag that I took to RSL is more expensive than the one that I'm going to bring. Where's the assembly? There we go. Nope, that's not the assembly. The version that I brought to RSL is going to be probably more... Oh, god damn it. Oh, no. What have I done to myself? Oh, no. What have I done? Oh, I forgot all the. Oh, never mind. Is that all the parts that I have to find? Because yeah, this one is definitely more than 3D printing CNC. Okay, so I outsourced some of the CNC work. So like the when I had an aluminum base plate with a bunch of tapered holes, which was probably which is my mistake. What's funny is that's 850 milliamp battery on, like, that's what the text says. It is. I'm not using an 850 milliamp battery for that. I mean, yeah, it's in there. But yeah, I would say Hodag, because the laser cut parts I got was like 200 for like the group of them. Yeah, because both my drive motors are about $45, so that's $90. $50 for this hub motor, and then this is like $80 for the servo, and then $50 for the drive ESC. I'll probably get to $350 just for the electronics for this. Let me bust out a Google sheet. Actually, I don't want to show you guys. I need to show you guys that. We need a new sheet. Do a new sheet. We got $50. $50 for that. 45 for. Trying to estimate some costs. I'll have to do a video on costs about combat robotics and how it costs of my. I'm not. I just realized I was gonna go down a whole rabbit hole. I don't want to go a whole rabbit hole, but yeah, I would say. I'm trying to think, yeah, probably close to 350 with all the. Also, I have 2 switches in it because I have 2 separate batteries for this. This is also a way more complicated robot than I would recommend anyone build, because like it's not even a hammer, because it's not like a hammer saw where I could just copy someone. There's not too many punch pods, because at some point this part is going to be billeted. Like I could definitely make it cheaper. My next whenever I make my next Beetle, it's definitely going to be cheaper than Hodag, which is a pretty low bar to cross. Also, I need like weird stuff like linear shafts. Like I'm assuming whatever robot you have doesn't need linear shafts. I got lots of shoulder bolts. We got shoulder bolts add up in price. You got shoulder bolt here. Over here. I didn't fix that mate. We got shoulder bolts here. And there's supposed to be one here, but I didn't because I'm a bad influence. Why does it look like that? Trip? Oh. Not mated properly? That's not supposed to be like that. Something's not right. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure this isn't going to bite me in the butt later. Whatever's going on. Oh, wait. Doesn't make sense. Yeah, I don't know why this is the way it is. I'll have to investigate that later. 8:30. But yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess you guys haven't seen, I've been working on the forks for this. It's a tangent. Whoever's watching the VOD later is going to be really confused. But yeah, last time I showed the cat a couple weeks ago for this, I did not show the tweaks I made, because I designed the forks. I don't know if I designed the forks on stream. And then I added this feature. This is basically like to spring load them essentially so that they're pressed downward more. And we got little wedgelets. But yeah, I don't have much more for this stream. I've clearly finished the robot that I was originally working on, and sunspots. Yeah. Oh, I mean, a custom beater bar is a very quick way to make your robot more expensive, because that's got to be billeted and everything. So yeah, a blade is gonna, or like a flat like laser cut or water jet cut part's going to be a lot cheaper than a machined part. That's why I'm not eager to make like a normal beater bar, because like outside of like the FingerTech beater bar, because I'm like, that's got to be expensive, and like especially if I like design it in a way that's suboptimal, and I'm gonna feel really bad because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna want to tweak it because I made this mistake, and then that's gonna be another $100 something dollars down the drain. Well, like I can get another one of these pretty easily. Another like weapon blade, even though this is a pretty thick. I basically made it as thick as I can make it, but yeah, custom beater bars. That's a pricey thing. But yeah, unfortunately, this is probably the last you guys are gonna see of Hodag until January. Because I don't know when I'm gonna actually get that video out, because the event is gonna be the 11th, and I don't think I'm gonna have the video next week. The week after, Horizontal Blazer 20. Yeah, exactly. That's a 4 times difference at least. On the low end, that's 4 times more. That's why I think Drisks are probably more popular, or probably popular, is because they're just cheaper to make. It's cheaper to make a Drisk than it is like a lot of a beater bar or something. But in a lot of cases, beater bars end up being worth the price because that moment of inertia. But couldn't be me. Maybe someday I'll make a normal 4-wheel drive vertical spinner. Technically, this is a 4-wheel drive vertical spinner, but not a normal one. Okay, I'll see you later. I'm probably gonna call it. It's been an hour and a half, and I finished what I came here to do, which was finish Ozark Howler. Unfortunately, if people are waiting to see the video that I'm gonna make for Ozark Howler, they're probably not gonna end up seeing it till like February, because my original plan, I was gonna take it to the event in January, but I'm probably going to not bring it to that event because of tight timelines, because right now I'm working really hard on Hodag. Like I have Hodag parts assembled and Hodag is working. So yep,